This denoiser is driven by AI and the NVIDIA Optix SDK. I made this program to help myself and others who are having trouble utilizing the built-in AI denoisers inside of render engines. I have a 7 GPU machine that always crashes whenever I try to use any AI denoising with Octane or any other render engine. With NDNoiser and a network setup, I could denoise files from a remote computer if needed. Okay, so with this program, you can denoise an image created with Cycles, Octane, Redshift, Iray, and Vray. The AI is trained on the Iray Render engine, so the results will differ between render engines. So far, I've found that Arnold does not seem to work with the AI Denoiser, but keep in mind that these are just the render engines I had available to test. Also, don't expect this to save really poor renders. The denoiser is still denoising an image, so you're still going to lose some detail. You will get the best quality to time ratio if you render to at least 60% full quality. When you first open up NDNoiser, you should see this prompt. Just hit OK. Okay, now you have to extract the denoiser. Just hit extract. But if you see this error when you click extract, this possibly means that you have to give permissions to NDNoiser to write files. I suggest checking your antivirus software to see if it is blocking NDNoiser from writing any files. If that doesn't work, check your firewall, but that shouldn't really matter. And once everything is done extracting, you'll get a message. If you don't have FFmpeg installed, just move the main window aside so you can see the previous screen. Just hit the How To button and a WikiHow page will open up showing you how to properly install FFmpeg to your environment variables and your system. You will need to do this if you want to use the baking features of NDNoiser. If you need to make any changes or if the program starts throwing errors, just hit the C button below to clear or reset the program. So if you look at the main screen here, I try to keep things as simple as I can. This batch button shows and hides functions when needed. So let's first start off without batching things. So what we have to do first is set an input file. So I select the file and it places it in here. Now that we have the input specified, let's specify the output. So that sets it as a folder. The input field to the right is where you specify the file name. So next we have the albedo and normal maps. So for albedo, what the AI denoiser is going to be looking for is a diffuse filter. Well, that's what it's called in Octane. It uses the filter to try to keep details in normal maps with minimal detail loss. For the normal map, in Octane the path is called shadow normal. If you want to use this function, both maps need to be present. You don't always have to use it, but it's here if you need it. Okay, and here we have blend. This will blend your original image with the denoise image. So it's going to run from 0 to 1. Basically 0.3 here, that's equal to 30%. So if I wanted to blend it in 50%, 0.5. And then HDR is just the HDR training of the AI. And once you have everything the way you want it, all you have to hit is go. You'll see a command prompt pop up, and once that is done, it should open up the file for you. NDNoiser can also batch denoise a whole folder of files. All you have to do is check batch, select a file, and that should select the entire folder, with the prefix being filled in up top if the program sees it. If this prefix doesn't match the source files, you can change it manually here. You will see the file extension got updated also. Change it here if needed. Set your output folder. As you can see, we don't have to set the file name anymore since it is going to be batching out and saving out a whole nother folder of files. As you can see, albedo and normal are turned off. For batch rendering, they will be turned on in the future. If you'll need to bake out the files to a video, just hit go and NDNoiser will start batching out your files. If not, up here you also have the choice to convert the entire denoise sequence to a video or a GIF file. What you do is check off convert, and once everything in the main window is specified, click next. After you hit next, the bake window will pop up. Using this, you can bake an image sequence to a video or a GIF. Since we are batching out an image sequence from the main window, the sequence path and the output path are both disabled. So to run through this, frame rate is the frame rate of your image sequence. Set this to the proper frame rate so that it'll run in the proper time. Here you can set the final resolution of your video or your GIF file. Here you provide the prefix of your source files. Here you set the first number in your image sequence. The number of zeros specifies the padding of your file name. So basically all you have to do is count how many numbers are at the end of your file name. File extension is just a file extension of the files that are going to be converted. Here you can specify the quality of the video that you want exported. It's kind of backwards, but 0 equals 100 and 100 equals 0. To get highest quality, put it to 0 or 1. Here you specify the output file name. And then here you specify the output extension. Right now, MP4, GIF, AVI, and WMV are supported. Click this if you want the file to be opened when finished. And here we have some extras. With Motion Blur A, you can add in simple motion blur to your animations. Motion Blur B is another type of motion blur. It's not as good as Motion Blur A, but it'll give you a different look. With slow-mo, you just have to type in how fast you want the clip to be slowed down by. 40% is equivalent to 60 frames per second being conformed down to 24 frames per second. Force FPS. Here, you can force frames per second to whatever you want. Depending on movement, the program will do its best at interpolating new frames into your animation. What's cool about this is that you can take the resulting file into your NLE and stretch it out nicely, instead of using slow-mo where it bakes the slow motion in, needing you to speed up the clip if needed. Keep in mind that this isn't perfect. It depends on the amount of motion in your render. Force frames per second with motion blur is basically the same thing, just with Motion Blur A. And reverse, just reverse your clip. And as you hit go, a command window will pop up showing you that it is working. So let this run for a while. This may take some time depending on how many images you want to denoise and which graphics card you're using. If you ever wanted to stop the denoising process, just close the command prompt window. The finished denoise files will be converted into a video file. If you check debug, this will keep all the command line windows from closing so that you can see if any errors occur during your rendering process. This also keeps the batch files from deleting themselves so that you can open them up in a notepad or any other text editor. Here you can troubleshoot the ffmpeg command. All you have to do to run the batch file is double click it. One thing that is important is that you need to have ffmpeg installed, and also make sure that you have the environment variables properly installed. To check this, open up a command prompt window and type in ffmpeg. If it is properly installed, you should see this. If you're having any troubles installing ffmpeg, just click right here on the question mark. It'll take you to a WikiHow website describing how to install ffmpeg properly. You can also access the documentation for this program by clicking on the question mark on the main window. This will open up a documentation PDF for NDNoiser. But yeah, thank you so much, good luck, and have a good day.